Grace to you and peace to God who is, who was, and who is to come. Amen. As we continue our readings from the Old Testament, we again today have got a really cool story about David. And probably when you heard that phrase in our first reading this morning, if you are above, say, the age of 10 and have lived here in the United States for at least 25 years, when you heard the phrase Ark of the Covenant, this is what you probably pictured. Am I right? Indiana Jones and Saul at the bottom of the well with the ark. They're surrounded by the snakes. That's what comes to mind. Now actually, Raiders of the Lost Ark is a fairly accurate biblically, but unlike some other movies, not to mention any names, Da Vinci Code. The Ark really did exist. It really did contain very powerful items, and specifically it had the stone commandments that Moses brought down from the top of the mountain. It had the staff of Aaron. Aaron is Aaron's brother. Aaron is Moses' brother, as they went head to head with Pharaoh. And it contained a jar of manna. Manna, of course, is the food that every day, every morning in the wilderness would show up on the doorsteps all around the people of Israel. And the third thing, the ark really was lost. Now we have to jump back to Exodus chapter 25 in order to get a description of the ark itself. That's where we learn, they shall make an ark of acacia wood. It shall be 2.5 cubits long, a cubit and a half wide, a cubit and a half high. You shall overlay it with pure gold inside and outside. You shall overlay it, and you shall make a molding of gold upon it all around. You shall cast 4 rings of gold forward and put them before on its feet, 2 rings on one side, 2 rings on the other side. You shall make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. You shall put the holes into the rings on the sides of the ark by which to carry the ark. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark. They shall not be taken from it. You shall put into the ark of the covenant that which I shall give you. Then chapter 25 goes on to describe the 2 angels up on the lid of the ark, how they are to be covered in gold leaf, that the ark is to sit upon a table when it's not being carried. That's supposed to be covered in gold leaf. Now, the ark had traveled all around with the people of Israel throughout their wilderness journeys, after they had escaped from Egypt. They carried it with them because they believed that the ark contained the power of Yahweh, the power of the Lord God Almighty. And things went pretty well with the ark. They didn't lose it once during all of those 40 years. It wasn't until they had entered back into the promised land and had one day gotten into a battle with some Philistines. They were defeated. They regrouped and they decided, the reason we were defeated was because we didn't have the ark with us in battle. So tomorrow when we go out into battle, we'll take the ark with us. The drawback was they forgot to consult God about this, and God got a little miffed at them. So when they went out into battle, God not only allowed them to lose, but allowed the Ark of the Covenant to be captured by the Philistines. This was not good for the Israelites, but it turned out it really wasn't all that great for the Philistines either, because everywhere that the Ark went, life was lousy for the Philistines. Disease, death, panic always resulted. And finally, the 5 kings of the states of the Philistines consulted with all the religious leaders. They tried to figure out, what are we going to do with this? The religious leaders said, pack it up on the back of a donkey and send the donkey back to the Israelites. So that's how the ark eventually ends up, as we've heard this morning, in the hands of a guy named Abinadab. David becomes king, and he recognizes that it would be really helpful to have a symbol there in Jerusalem, in the capital, a symbol that would help people recognize him as the king. And so he wants to bring the ark there to the capital, to Jerusalem, to give people that visual cue that David has the blessings of the Lord God Almighty. And so that's a condensed version of what leads up to our reading this morning. Now I want to point out, though, a couple of things in our reading that you might not have caught. David is really excited about bringing the ark into Jerusalem, into the capital. And so First, he puts on this huge show. He gathers together from all across Israel. He gathers 30,000 men who are going to march with the ark as they bring it from Abinadab's home off the approximate 25 miles there to Jerusalem. And all along the way, there's singing and dancing, there's music, there's sacrifices, and David is really in the moment. He's actually dressed appropriately in a thing called an ephod. That's a ceremonial robe. It's brightly colored, it's elaborately decorated. David is wearing an ephod, and he's dancing joyfully before the Lord. Mrs. Ennie was right. He really had a case of happy feet. Absolutely. Now, right after we learn about David's dancing, though, we're told that one of David's wives, a woman named Michal, who happened to be a daughter of Saul, saw David dancing. I need to connect a few more lines for you right after I take a quick sip. Excuse me. So, Saul was the very first king of Israel. Saul screws up. He does something that he's not supposed to do. God tells Saul to do one thing. Saul says, oh no, I know something better to do. There's going to be even more praise for you. And God said, no, sorry, you're out of the gene pool. And so God sends the prophet Samuel to go out and find David and anoints David as the new king. Now the problem is Saul is still the king in Israel, and David's been anointed the new king. Saul knows that somebody has been anointed, but he doesn't know who. And he wants to find out who this is so that he can hunt them down and kill them. That doesn't sit well with David. And so David spends a lot of time hiding and running away from Saul. But since at first Saul doesn't know who this is, David's kind of able to get into Saul's good graces. You might remember the story of David and Goliath. That happens before Saul finds out that David is the newly anointed king. David defeats one of the enemies of the Israelites, this Philistine, this guy named Goliath. And so because David does that and some other things, he gets himself into Saul's good graces. And Saul eventually decides, you know what, I like this guy, I'm going to let him marry one of my daughters. So that's how David and Michal end up being married. Now, the problem is, once Saul discovers that David is the newly anointed king, then he goes after David. He keeps trying to kill him. And at the first chance possible, he kidnaps his daughter, Michal, back from David, marries her off to another fellow. It might be safe to say that David and Michal get a bit of a rough patch there. And so Saul eventually dies in battle. David gets Michal back into his household. The thing is, during that whole time apart, their marriage has really pretty much totally fallen apart. You remember last week, Pastor Corner was talking about soap operas. Okay, these have been going on for thousands of years and they're real. You know, the stuff that we see on TV that hasn't barely begun to scratch the surface of some of the things that actually happen. But the good news is that, well, I'm sorry, I should say. So Michal comes back into David's household, but on this day, on this big, wonderful, celebrated day, Michal sees David dancing. He's really excited, and she despises him in her heart. Well, the good news, though, is that by the end of our lesson, the ark is now safely there in Jerusalem. Life is good. The people are rejoicing. Everything is fine, at least until our lesson next week. What is it that gets you excited? What makes you dance? What causes you to be exuberant, happy? Lots of things. Probably ice cream, a cold drink on a really hot day, a good movie. Maybe what gets you happy and excited and want to dance is just being around that person that you really like, your spouse, your child, your coworker, significant other, whoever. Maybe you're somebody that gets really excited in a positive way about politics or going to a concert. What is it that gets you dancing about your faith? Is it maybe good worship? Maybe what gets you happy about your faith is being part of the tutoring program that we do here, or singing in the choir, or playing in the band. Maybe it's going on the Maine mission trip every year that we do as folks go up to Maine and help those who are financially insecure and need help with their property. Maybe what gets you really excited about your faith is helping out, like we just did here this week with the VBS program, or as we have done for many years with the VBS program that Eagles Wings puts on in the Northwest Territories. We've got people go up there and help. Our band records music for them. What is it that gets you dancing before God? See, that's one of the things that I think we can take away from our lesson this morning. God comes to us in shapes and forms and programs and experiences. And whatever it is that gets you dancing before God, that gets you excited about being a believer, if somebody criticizes you, don't worry about it. It's their problem, not yours. So dance before God. Whatever your dance is, just do it. Do your dance in service of God. Do your dance as an outflow of your faith. Don't worry about what others say. Grab your ephod and dance like David.